Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Jiva, Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. This is from Canto 3, Chapter 2, and this morning we're doing texts 31 and 32. We're very fortunate to have His Grace Jiva Tattva Prabhu from ISKCON DC to give a class. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Jiva, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prakshit Prabhu and dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Please join us for Jai Radha Madhav praise. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Radhe. Jai Radha Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Radhe. Jai Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Gopinath, Radha Gopinath, Radha Gopinath, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Gopinath, Radha Gopinath, Radha Gopinath, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव है गो प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि जय ओम विष्णुपाद परिवेश शिष्य शिला गोपाल शिष्य ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की जय जय ओम विष्णुपाद परिवेश शिष्य शिला भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज शिला प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत वैष्णववृंद की जय नामाचार्य ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपी गो श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय दादा धाम नवद्वीप मायापुर जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय गंगा मई यमुना मई की जय भक्ति देवी तुलसी की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय समेत भक्त विंद की जय श्री श्री वैष्णवाचार्य विंद की जय श्री श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर की जय श्री श्री राधा दामोदर की जय श्री जगन्नाथ सुभद्रा बलदेव की जय श्री श्री कांताय की जय ब्रह्म डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय संकीर्तन महायज्ञ की जय अंतराय श्रीमद भागवतम की जय गो प्रेमानंदे all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today we'll be covering Shrimad Bhagavatam, verse 31 and 32 from 3rd Canto, chapter 2nd. This is the response by Uddhav to the inquiry of Vidura, which was the first chapter of the 3rd Canto. Hare Krishna. So please join us in the recitation of these verses. Shrimad Bhagavatam 3-31. Vipannan Vishpanena Nigrahya Bhujagadhipam Uttapya Payayad Gavas Tattoyam Prakati Sthitam. Hare Krishna. Please join us for the invocation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirye Shavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Hridayantastohya Bhadrani Vidhunoti Satam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavti Nashtaki. Hare Krishna. Please join us for the recitation of these verses. Shrimad Bhagavatam 3-31. Vipannan Vishpanena Nigraha Bhujagadhipam Uthapaya Yad Gavas Uthapaya Paya Yad Gavas Tadatoyam Prakati Sthitam Vipannan Vishpanena Nigrahya Bhujagadhipam उत्थापयापाय यद्गावस्तो तत्तोऽयं प्रकृतिस्थितं विपन्नान् विश्वपानेन निगृह्य भुजगाधिपम् उत्थापयापाय यद्गावस्तत्तोऽयं प्रकृतिस्थितं. Hare Krishna.
Vipanam Vishapanina Nigra Bhujag Nigrihya Bhujagadipam Utapya Payayad Gavas Tattoyam Prakriti Stitam. Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Vipannan Visapanena Nigraha Bhujagadipam Uttapyapayayat Kvavas Tatyoyam Prakritistam.
Vipanan Vishapanena Nigriya Bhujagatipam Utapyapaya Yadyavas Tattoyam Prakriti Stitam. Hare Krishna.
Vipannan Vesapanena Nigraya Bhujagatipam Utthapaya Payayat Gavas Tattoyam Prakriti Stitam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. विपन्नानुविशपानेन निर्ग्रह भुजगाधिपम् उत्थापयापायाद्गावस् तत्तोऽयं प्रकृतिस्थितम्. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Synonyms, word for word translation. Vipannan, perplexed in great difficulties. Vishapanena, by drinking poison. Nigrahya, subduing. Bhujaga Adipam, the chief of the reptiles. Utthapya, after coming out. Apayayat, caused to drink. Gavaha, the cows. Tat, that. Toyam, water. Prakriti, natural. Sthitam, situated. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yay.
The inhabitants of Vrindavan were perplexed by great difficulties because a certain portion of the Yamuna was poisoned by the chief of the reptiles, Kaliya. The Lord chastised the snake king within the water and drove him away. And after coming out of the river, he caused the cows to drink the water and proved that the water was again in its natural state. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:2-32. अयाजयद गोसवेना गोपराजं द्विजोत्तमहे वित्तस्य चोरुभारस्य चिकीर्षन् सद्वयं विभुः. Synonyms. Ayajayat, made to perform. Oh, let me repeat again. Ayajayat gosavena goparajam dvijotamahe vittasya chorubharasya chikirshan sadvayam vibhuhu. Ayajayat gosavena goparajam dvijotamahe vittasya chorubharasya chikirshan sadvayam vibhuhu. Hare Krishna.
Ready, chant?
Yes, please.
Okay. Ayajayad Gosavena Goparajam Vijotamai Vitasya Choru Bharasya Chikishan Sadhyayam Vibhu. Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Okay.
Hare Krishna. अयाजयादिगो सावेन गोपुराजं द्विदोचतमहे वित्तस्य चोरभारस्य चिकीर्षन् सद्वयं विभु. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Word for word translation. Aya Jayat, made to perform. Go Savena, by worship of the cows. Goparajam, the king of the cowherds. Dvija Uttamehe, by the learned Brahmanas. Vittasya, of the wealth. Cha, also. Urubharasya, great opulence. Chikirshan, desiring to act. Satvayam, proper utilization. Vibhu, the great. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Lord Krishna desired to utilize the opulent financial strength of Maharaj Nanda for the worship of the cows, and also he wanted to give a lesson to Indra, the king of heaven. Thus he advised his father to perform worship of go, the cows, and the pasturing land and the cows with the help of learned brahmanas. Purport. Since he is the teacher of everyone, the Lord also taught his father Nand Maharaj. Nand Maharaj was a well-to-do landlord and owner of many cows and as was the custom, he used to perform yearly worship of Indra, the king of heaven, with great opulence. This worship of demigods by the general populace is also advised in the Vedic literature just so people can accept the superior power of the Lord. The demigods are servants of the Lord deputed to look after the management of various activities of universal affairs. Therefore, it is advised in the Vedic scriptures that one should perform yagyas to appease the demigods. But one who is devoted to the Supreme Lord has no need to appease the demigods. Worship of the demigods by common people is an arrangement for acknowledging the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, but it is not necessary. Such appeasement is generally recommended for material gains only. As we have already discussed in the second canto of this literature, one who admits the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not need to worship the secondary demigods. Sometimes being worshipped and adored by less intelligent Hare Krishna, living beings, the demigods become puffed up with power and forget the supremacy of the Lord. This happened when Lord Krishna was present in the universe, and thus the Lord wanted to give a lesson to the king of heaven, Indra. He therefore asked Maharaj Nanda to stop the sacrifice offered to Indra and to use the money properly by performing a ceremony worshipping the cows and the pasturing ground on the hill of Govardhan. By this act, Lord Krishna taught human society, as he has instructed in the Bhagavad Gita also, that one should worship the Supreme Lord by all acts and by all their results. That will bring about the desired success. The Vaishyas are specifically advised to give protection to the cows and their pasturing ground or agricultural land instead of squandering their hard earned money. That is, satisfy the Lord. The perfection of one's occupational duty, whether in the sphere of duty to oneself, one's community, or one's nation, is judged by the degree to which the Lord is satisfied. I'll repeat the last sentence. It is conclusive on this purport. The perfection of one's occupational duty, whether in the sphere of duty to oneself, one's community, or one's nation, is judged by the degree to which the Lord is satisfied. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Srila Prabhupada Pranati and seeking blessings from the Acharyas. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Dina Taranam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Hare Krishna, Parishit Prabhu. Thank you. You
Hare
can
Krishna. Jai.
sharing. Thank you. Hare Krishna. And thank you for the opportunity. So, dear devotees, this is in these two verses. Lord Krishna, Ms. Uddhav is covering two pastimes, and we'll be looking at the common aspects of these two pastimes as well. So let's recap. King Parikshit has been cursed to die in 7 days. He is fasting until death on the bank of Yamuna. Shukdev Goswami is narrating the whole Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, which is later recited by Sutta Goswami at Naimisharanya to the sages who were gathered to ward off the effects of this Kali age. And in that Srimad Bhagavatam recitation comes the pastime where Uddhav and Vidur they meet at the bank of Yamuna. And there, in chapter 1, is where Uddhav had made various inquiries about Lord Krishna's associate and then Lord Krishna himself. And remembering them, Uddhav is becoming very emotional and he is reflecting all the 8 symptoms of ecstasy are seen in Uddhav. So Vidur recognizes those. And Uddhav is responding to the inquiries of Vidur. And in the previous verses, as we had seen, just the previous to this that Parikshit Prabhu covered last Friday, was a beautiful verse where Kansa was sending various kind of demons to Vraj Dham, and Krishna was destroying them as if a child destroys the various toys. So from Krishna's perspective, it was simply that my maternal uncle, my mama, is sending me is gifting me various toys, and I'm playing with them, and they're getting destroyed in the meantime. And as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, based on the teachings from Garg Samhita, that there are various kind of anarthas, unwanted qualities that we have. They seem to come up. And when we engage in Lord Krishna's devotional service, they get destroyed in due course of time. So such is the wonderful aspect. And now comes the time that these were not the demons sent by Kamsa. These 2 personalities were Kaliya and Indra. They were not the ones sent by Indra. So what do they teach us? So again, when Krishna corrects our pride and redirects our power, right? So what's the central message we get from these 2 verses? Krishna is not merely an object of worship. He is the supreme teacher. Sometimes he teaches by removing poisons, sometimes by redirecting wealth and activities, and sometimes by protecting his devotees, and sometimes by humbling the powerful, like even the king of the demigods, Indra. And so the ultimate examination of every activity is beautifully given by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. How much has the Lord been satisfied? So that is the criteria of success. That's what we should be looking at. When we normally imagine a teacher standing before a blackboard, because Srila Prabhupada is calling Lord Krishna as the supreme teacher, we're kind of like thinking the teacher is standing in a classroom, we're sitting in the classroom, and he's working on the blackboard. But Krishna's arrangement is little different. His classroom could be River Yamuna, and his blackboard could be Kaliya's hoods. And his lessons can be taught through Govardhan Hill. And his student can even be Indra, the king of the demigods, the king of heaven. So these 2 verses, Srimad Bhagavatam 32, 31 and 32, what do they describe? They describe 2 very different issues in our lives. In one place, there is poison. And in another place, there is pride. So in one pastime, Kaliya has contaminated the environment. And in another environment, Indra has become contaminated internally by prestige, by pride. So Krishna is teaching us something extraordinary. External pollution requires purification. That's the stage of Kaliya's poison, polluting the environment. But the internal pollution requires humility, and that's the case of Indra. So Kaliya possessed enormous strength, but his strength had become destructive to the environment he was existing in. Nan Maharaj, and in the 32nd verse, Lord Krishna started with, Srila Prabhupada started the purport with Nan Maharaj's possession. So Nan Maharaj possessed enormous strength. But Krishna wanted that wealth properly redirected. That's also very interesting. Because sometimes we have the tendency of saying, karmi puja, like your work is worship. No, work should be directed as if it is worship. Not every work is worship, but should be directed towards Krishna's satisfaction. Then it becomes worship. If it is devoid of devotional service, if it's devoid of keeping Krishna in the center, then it's not worship. It is sense gratification, the same activity. Only when it is directed for Krishna's satisfaction, it becomes worship. So here, Nand Maharaj, even though he possessed the cows, the land, and he was the king of the Vaishyas, the mercantile people at Vraja, Krishna wanted that wealth properly directed for the right purpose. Let's look at Indra. He possessed enormous authority, right? King of the heaven, king of the demigods, responsible for all the three worlds, management, especially the earthly kingdoms as well. But authority without remembrance of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, had turned into pride. So perhaps the question for us today is not, do I possess strength? Do I possess money? Do I possess intelligence? Do I possess influence? Or do I possess position? The real question is, who is controlling them and whom are they satisfying? Are they meant for my control so that I can satisfy my senses, or am I using them for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord? In material world, sense gratification is the focus. And that's why they are so disturbed, so anxious, because it never satisfies. Srila Prabhupada gives a very nice insight that this world has everything to satisfy the need of all living entities, but it doesn't have enough to satisfy the greed of even one living entity. So when it comes to satisfying the greed, there is no limit. So let's look at these verses again. Vipannan Vishpanena Nigraha Bhujagadhipam Uttapaya Payad Gavas Tadatoyam Prakriti Sthitam. Right? So the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they were perplexed by great difficulties because a certain portion of River Yamuna was poisoned by the chief of the reptiles, Kalia, who had actually come there because he was driven out by Garud. So the Lord chastised the snake king within the water and drove him away. And after coming out of the water, he, Lord Krishna, caused the cows to drink the water and proved that the water was again in its natural state. Now that may appear too digital, right? 0 to 1, back to its original state. But this is where after Kalia leaves, and then Lord comes out, because the touch of Lord's lotus feet, because of the touch, the water, he had regained the water in its natural state. So notice the beautiful words being used in this verse. Nigraha, subduing. Krishna does not negotiate with poison. He subdues its source. The root cause analysis has been given by Krishna here. And as well as solution has been provided. He subdues the very source of that poison. And look at the other word being used, prakriti sthitam, restored to its natural condition. So this is extremely profound, dear devotees. Krishna does not merely defeat Kaliya in this pastime. He restored the river Yamuna, the lake, in its original state. So the objective of divine correction is not simply punishment. It is restoration. Similarly, when Krishna corrects something in our life, the purpose is not merely, now you have suffered. The purpose is, come back to your natural condition. Jivera Sarupaya Krishnera Nityadas. That's our natural condition of the soul. That we are eternal servant of Krishna. That's our Swarup. That's our Dharma. That's our intrinsic quality. So, what is the natural attitude we should be acquiring in this state? Is to remember Krishna always, to serve Krishna, and to love Krishna. And then the next verse goes even deeper. Ayajayad Gosavena Goparajan Dvijatamahe Vittasya Chorubharasya Chikirshan Sad Vyayam Vibhuhu. So the Supreme Lord Krishna desired to utilize the opulent financial strength of Nanda Maharaj for worship of the cows. And also he wanted to give a lesson to King Indra, the king of heaven, the king of the demigods. So what does he do? He advised his father to perform worship of Go. And here Go actually has three meanings. Go has the meaning of the land, the cows, right? And then the third one is the senses. Our senses also referred to as Go. That's why those who are still in practicing Krishna consciousness and the materialists and everyone else who have not yet regained the ability to engage their senses fully in Krishna consciousness constantly, always, they are referred to as Go Das, servant of Go. And we as devotees are practicing our engagement of our senses in the service of Krishna. So we are still practitioner. It hasn't become a secondary nature. But those who have perfected that stage, they are referred to as Goswami. Then they have become the master of their senses because they know the purpose of the senses to engage in Krishna's service. Everything has to be engaged in Krishna's service. And Lord Krishna is not just doing this, engaging the worship and redirecting the wealth, he's doing it with the help of learned brahmanas. Now, dear devotees, if we look at Lord Krishna's pastime, these learned brahmanas had previously performed the similar yajna for the pleasure of the demigods, especially Lord Indra. Their focus was not the same as that of Nand Maharaj. Their focus was to engage in the service of demigods so that they can attain heavenly kingdom. Because they wanted to enjoy. So that's material consciousness, that's not spiritual consciousness, the ritualistic process to attain higher platform. So from that perspective, when we see, even the demigods got a lesson that when Indra became angry, he did not care that the demigods who had just worshipped him also in this particular gathering. He sent Samvartika clouds to destroy the whole of Braj, including the demigods who had actually worshipped him just before this worship of Govardhan Hill. And he could have just qualified it as collateral damage. Right? It just happened to be, you happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. So you have to also get annihilated. That could have been the very much mentality of Indra because of the pride that that was driving his decisions. Right? And so in the second verse, Sadvyayam, proper utilization of the wealth of Nand Maharaj has been identified. The word is not simply used as vyaya, as expenditure, but sadvyaya, proper expenditure, proper utilization, that has been identified. And Krishna's instruction is therefore not necessarily give everything up. No, that's not what Krishna is teaching us. Rather, he's identifying that we have to utilize everything, we have to use everything in his service, in proper relationship with Krishna, right? So we have to learn that lesson that Krishna is teaching in this verse, that everything has to be properly in relationship with Krishna, because he is saying that he's teaching us that money can become bondage, right? But the same money, when utilized for his satisfaction, can become service. Authority, in the case of Indra, as we see, can become arrogance. But authority can also become service when used for his satisfaction, when engaged for his satisfaction. Intelligence can become argument. And sometimes we see that even we devotees have this tendency of having this conversation with materialists when it comes to, does God exist or does it not? Does he not exist? We become part of that argument. We engage our intelligence in argument. That does not please Krishna, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that this knowledge should not be shared with those who are envious of me. So intelligence has to be properly utilized for satisfaction of Krishna, and then the intelligence can become realization. Well, technology, we all know how distracting this is, right? How distracting the technology can be. But the same technology, as we see in this Zoom session today, can distribute Krishna consciousness. So here, Parikshit Prabhu is a perfect example as how he's using the technology in distributing Krishna consciousness all around the globe. And so the decisive factor, what is that? Sadvyayam. How can Krishna's gift be utilized? Now let's look at, for those who maybe may not be aware of who is this Kaliya we are talking about. Well, Kaliya was a very powerful serpent. He had fled Ramanaka island after he had provoked Garuna, because Garuna used to come there to eat snakes, and the Vasuki made a request. One of the other king, the younger brother of Anantashesh, he requested Lord Brahma to make an arrangement, and Lord Brahma discussed with Garuna and said, okay, one snake would be enough, because Garuna was eating, one, but he was killing many. And to avoid that extra exploitation of the resources, the arrangement was that as a sacrifice, one snake would be offered to Garuna, and that way the snake community, the Nag, Kula, they could live very peacefully. But out of false pride, Kaliya had consumed the offerings that were meant for Garuna and later took shelter in a Yamuna lake when Garuna would not enter, because the Shaubri Rishi had cursed that if Garuna comes there, he would die. And Garuna actually is beaten Kaliya very badly. So again, Kaliya knew that Garuna could not come to this lake, so he had taken shelter there. But what had happened? Kaliya's powerful poison contaminated the water. It contaminated the vegetation around the lake and the surrounding life. Since Yamuna was polluted, Krishna jumped into Kaliya's lake. So this is Yamuna lake. And Kaliya attacked and wrapped him in his coils. But Krishna freed himself, mounted the serpent's hoods, and danced upon them. Sometimes when our various anarthas try to rise as hoods, Krishna dances on him, trying to curb them. So whenever proud hood arose, Krishna forced it down. Finally, Krishna's strength was exhausted. Kaliya's strength was exhausted, and Krishna was showing his majestic power. And Kaliya's pride was broken. So even in that state, Kaliya was coming, all his poison had come out in the form of foam, and now he was vomiting blood. At that time, his wives, the Nagpatnis, they prayed for mercy. And Kaliya surrendered to Krishna. Krishna did not kill him. He ordered Kaliya to leave Yamuna and return with his family to Ramanaka island. Now comes the beautiful conclusion as Uddhav is narrating. So it's very interesting. In few words, sometimes great realizations are given out. So here Uddhav is saying that the poison was gone and the cows could drink again. And so the water returned to its natural state. So what lesson do we take from this verse? That Krishna doesn't merely crush the serpent. He cures the environment the serpent contaminated. We talk about the three purposes of Lord Krishna's appearance. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So again, to bless, to have loving exchange with his devotees, to annihilate the miscreants, to reestablish the religious principles, to reestablish the environment. That's very important. Now, what's the second pastime? Govardhan Leela, right? Indra, whose authority had no humility. So when Krishna saw Nand Maharaj and cowherdman preparing for the annual Indra's Yagya, Indra Yagya, the sacrifice for Indra, he questioned the arrangement. And actually using Karmimamsa argument, he directed and satisfied everyone to worship the Brahmanas, the cows, and the Govardhan hill. That enraged Indra, who sent Samvatika clouds to destroy the whole Vrajtham. And seeing this torrential rain, the Samvatika clouds, their drops were the size of pillars, thick pillars. They were astonished, and Nand Maharaj, he and other cowherd men, they all approached Krishna, and Krishna, he lifted Govardhan hill with one hand, with his pinky on his left hand, not a very important hand, and a very important finger. And so he provided shelter to all the Vrajvasis, the resident of Vrindavan and Vrajvas Mandala, for 7 days, 7 nights continuously. And then Indra realized his mistake and withdrew the storm. Finally, Indra came before Krishna in a secluded place, ashamed and humbled. And Krishna explained that stopping the sacrifice had a greater purpose, to destroy the pride. So Krishna actually teaches Indra to become humble because the power he has is a delegated power. He is not fully independent. And Srimad Bhagavatam, the very first verse talks about Swarat Abhigya. Only Lord Krishna is completely independent. So what's the lesson from this verse? That Krishna did not remove Indra from service. He removed pride from Indra's service. Sometimes it's very interesting that in material world we see somebody is not able to do things correctly, and the first tendency is everyone is like, remove them. And they bring someone else who makes similar mistakes just in other areas. And so the continuation of mistakes happen one after another while the correction never takes place. And the purpose is to correct our activities. So today we'll be covering this verse from the acronym TEACH. T-E-A-C-H, right? T is to tame the toxicity, the anarthas in our heart, right? Kalia's poison and Indra's pride. They are a perfect example. E is to engage everything properly. Sadvayam. Even Nan Maharaja's resources were redirected. And A is for act for Krishna's satisfaction. Work and its fruits should be offered to the Lord for his satisfaction. C is for care, care for cause, care for the creation, care for the community. And so Go Seva, Govardhan, and Vraj Dham, they were all cared for by Krishna, and he's showing by example as a teacher, as an acharya, that how to take care of these things. And H is to humble ourselves before the Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna. Even Kaliya bowed. He was the king of the Nagas. And Indra bowed. He was the king of the heaven. Nanda Maharaj, he followed Krishna's instructions. So these are very important aspects. Taming the toxicity is very important because Kaliya's greatest problem was not that he possessed power. His biggest issue was that his power was poisoning everything around him. So that gives us a personal inquiry, a diagnostic question we may ask ourselves. What comes out of me when my ego is disturbed, right? When our ego is disturbed, what happens? Does my speech become poisonous? It becomes too strong and too hurting? Does criticism come out? Do I start comparing things? Do I complaining about things? Does sarcasm come out? And do I contaminated the emotional Yamuna, the surrounding around me? And that is an astonishing image in Kaliya Leela. Kaliya had many hoods, yes. Whenever one hood rose, Krishna brought it down. Our false ego also seems to have many hoods. I am right. I deserve recognition. Why wasn't I consulted? Why didn't they thank me? Doesn't everybody recognize me? Srila Prabhupada at one point identified that this is a tendency. Everyone's thinking that they are the great boon, great gift to the humanity. Thinking, don't they know who I am? We push down one hood and another appears. So Krishna performs his divine dance upon our ego. And so his feet are not simply punishment. Even the Nagpatnis, the wife of Kaliya, they recognize that even Kindra's chastisement is ultimately beneficial. They were actually glorifying that Kaliya must have performed some great sacrifice in his past, but that he gets to touch the dust, not just the dust, the very feet of Lord Krishna. Right? So power without surrender is poison. But power with surrender becomes service and satisfy Krishna. So Kaliya wasn't annihilated. He was redirected. That is teach. E is to engage everything properly. How do we engage everything properly? Now the second verse, the 32nd verse of the second chapter of the canto talks about this. Takes us from Kaliya's strength to Nan Maharaja's financial strength. Both are strength, just in a different way. Vittasya choru bharasya, great financial opulence. That's been referred in this verse. And Chikrishan sadvayam, Krishna directed it. So he desired its proper utilization. Where? This is it's an incredible contemporary teaching, right? Sometimes Krishna's methods are not conventional methods. His methods are, let's just say, out of this world. Bhakti does not ask how little can I possess. The deeper question is how much of what I possess is actually connected with Krishna. Suppose someone has wealth. Can he support devotional service? That's the question to ask. Suppose someone has management abilities, right? Can it organize service? Suppose someone has technical skills. Can they serve Vaishnavas? Suppose someone has beautiful home. Can prasadam be served there? Can kirtan be sung there? And worship occurs 24/7. Suppose someone has communication skills. Can they speak Harikatha? Suppose someone has retirement time. Can that retirement time become Shravan and Seva? So the spiritual transformation is from me to he, right? From mine to his for Krishna's satisfaction. Instead of seeking my sense satisfaction, how can we direct it for Krishna's satisfaction? And that's what Bhagavad Gita teaches us. 9.27 Yat karoshi yadashnasi yad juhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kante tat kurishva madarpranam. So whatever we do, whatever we eat, whatever we give away, whatever austerities, sacrifices, charity we perform should be offered to Krishna. Mad arpanam, Lord Krishna says. That is sadvayam in daily life, proper utilization. A is for Krishna's satisfaction. Now, this may be the deepest sentence in Srila Prabhupada's purport, that perfection of one's occupational duty. We have, based on our body, our varna, our prescribed duties, and then we have our soul. They have to be aligned. And was that success the perfection? The success criteria is that is judged by the degree to which the Lord is satisfied. We should not just say, work is worship. No, work should be worship. And that will become worship only when we direct it towards Lord's satisfaction. So now this changes the scoreboard of life, right? Material consciousness says, did I succeed? Bhakti says, was Krishna satisfied? When material consciousness asks, did people appreciate me? Bhakti says, did my Guru and Krishna appreciate the consciousness behind my service? It's not just the activities, it's the mindset behind those activities that counts the most. Material consciousness asks, was I given credit? But Bhakti says, was service rendered? Was Krishna satisfied? Were Vaishnavas happy? Were they satisfied? So in Bhagavad Gita, there is beautifully confirming this principle. Swa karmana tam abhyachara siddhim vindante manavaha. A person can attain perfection through his own work when that work becomes worship of the Lord. So spirituality does not begin only after retirement. It does not begin only inside the temple. It does not begin only when the arti is offered. Our occupation itself can become worship. Now that question is consciousness. That is the question of consciousness. And C, T-E-A-C, C is for care for cows, creation, and community. So we talked about the go means the cows, the senses. Also refers to the pasturing ground on which the cows persist. Why? Because Krishna's civilization is not merely about consuming resources. Rishi Go Rakshya Vanijyam Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam. In the previous week's class, we talked about this, that the activities of Vaishyas, the mercantile people, is agriculture, cow protection, commerce, the trade aspects. And these are identified as the natural occupational duties at the bodily platform. But at the spiritual platform, Jivera Surabhaya Nityera Krishna Das. So we are eternal servant of Krishna. How do we engage this? After purifying the Yamuna, what does Krishna do? He caused the cows to drink the milk, or to drink the water. So that way, he's showing, even in the next verse, that he directed the worship towards the cows and the land where they were pasturing, the Govardhan hill, right? So both verses are actually connected to Go Rakshana consciousness. Right? So again, it's not the utilization of cows for our sense gratification, but to protect the cows. Now today, today's civilization, Kali ages, everyone is looking at destroying the cows for sense gratification. But Krishna is looking at restoring the environment where the cows can safely drink. He is creating an economy where the cows are properly protected. That is the powerful connection between these two verses. Purification and protection, they belong together. So, H, last but not the least, is to humble ourselves before the Supreme Lord, Lord Shri Krishna. Now let's compare Kaliya and Indra. Kaliya is a serpent, king of the serpents, actually. Indra is a demigod, king of the demigods. So both are very powerful. One lives in poisonous water, and the poison is coming out from his own body. So he is contributing to that poison. One lives in a heavenly opulence, supposed to be in mode of goodness, sattvic and very nice environment, very clean environment. Externally, there's enormous difference, but internally, there's one common disease. What's that disease? The false ego, the pride, the false pride that one is carrying. So Kaliya thought, this is my lake. I can be protected here and no one can come here. Similarly, Indra, he thought that these people depend upon my reign. So Krishna teaches them, yes, you are powerful, but your power comes from me, he is saying. So this transformation is especially beautiful because Krishna does not finish either pastime by destroying the individual. And he told Kaliya, go back to Ramanaka, go back to your original home. He told Indra, go back to heaven and perform your service properly. So the lesson is not to take one's position away, become useless so you cannot become proud. That's not the lesson, my dear devotees. The lesson is to become useful without becoming proud. In a humble state of mind, we can continue to perform our duties. Taradapishwani chena tarurapi saishuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the third verse of Shishashtakam teaches us that we have to become more humble than the grass on the street, more tolerant than the tree, and ready to give all respect to others without expecting any respect for ourselves. In that state of mind, we can engage in devotional service eternally. We can continue to chant the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So what's the lesson here? That we have to become useful in a humble state of mind. We don't have to abandon responsibility. We don't have to abandon proprietorship, don't abandon our abilities, because these are all gifts that we have received to be able to learn the lessons that we have taken this human birth for. So we have to abandon what? Abandon arrogance. We have to abandon the illusion that I am the controller. That is true humility. So here with Kaliya and Indra, as we are comparing, there's a striking parallel. Kaliya thought he's a powerful serpent. Indra thought he's a powerful demigod. Kaliya thought poison contaminating the Yamuna, and Indra's pride is unleashing destructive rains. Kaliya is misusing strength. Indra is misusing authority. Krishna subdues both of them. He subdues Kaliya's by dancing on his hoods, and he defeats Indra's plan by lifting Govardhan hill. So pride is collapsed in both cases. Both of them submit to Krishna. And Krishna shows his mercy and returns, place them in their proper place, proper service. And so Krishna does not oppose strength. He opposes strength separated from him, from his authority. So we should not pray, Krishna, make me incapable. Rather, Krishna, whatever capacity we have, please don't let it make me forget you. When Srila Prabhupada, he was addressing his disciples, he was saying that you may fall down, but I will not fall down. So disciples were shocked because at that time, even some of the sannyasi disciples had fallen from their position. And they were paying attention. When Srila Prabhupada was paying obeisances to the devotees, he was saying, my dear Lord, please don't let me fall down. Please make me always remember you. And that was the great realization for the devotees at the time. So Srila Prabhupada in the purports, what is he identifying? He's giving us some jewel that we have to recognize, right? Since he's the teacher of everyone, he's saying that Lord Krishna is the teacher of everyone. So nobody graduates from Krishna's school, not even Nand Maharaj or Indra. And another jewel that we can think is that the Lord wanted to give Indra a lesson. So correction itself can be mercy. In Govardhan Leela, the person who was saved the most was Indra. And even the money, the abilities, like, they can be used properly. Spirituality includes stewardship of resources. And perfection is measured by the Lord's satisfaction. The last but not the least, the most important lesson is that Krishna replaces ego scoreboard with bhakti scoreboard. And bhakti is always looking at the satisfaction of Krishna. Hare Krishna, my dear devotees. So this is what we covered today. And we can also look at it from practice perspective, right? How can we apply it in this week? Toxic audit, right? That's also T. Before sleeping, let's identify one moment when speech, irritation, or ego polluted the atmosphere around us. A is to engagement audit. Choose one resource and see how we can connect it with Krishna. A is for aspiring to check our actions, and C is for care consciously, and H for humility response. Hare Krishna. कंत्रा श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय. Back to you, Parikshit Prabhu.
Thank you very much for a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful lecture. So much explanation given, merging with the pastimes and, of course, the proper consciousness that we should have about service. And the important point, one point that you made, by point that I noted, is with Kaliya and Indra, that Krishna did not take their lives. Many demons were destroyed by Krishna then, but those two, they were taught a lesson. Indra regretted, and Kaliya was pummeled to submission. So in either case, he didn't kill them. Important aspect. So Krishna is not one-sided. Not that every time he sees a demon, he's going to kill the demon. No, Kaliya was actually also acting demonic, but he regretted, and so, and Krishna allowed him with condition: get out of here, go somewhere else. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, this is the time to unmute yourself, and if you have questions, you have takeaways, if you have something that really, really excited you with this that you want to share with us, then you can go ahead. So just raise your electronic hand or just unmute yourself and then start speaking. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Well, my comment is, okay, good. I was just only going to comment some, but not too important. Shane, please go ahead. Shane, please step on the basis. It's going to see the PowerPoint.
Please accept mine, O glory Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for a beautiful class. It was really nice hearing the correlations between Indra and Kaliya, and all the different ways of how it correlates to devotion. I really like how when we speak and we're fixed in the false ego, we're actually distributing poison around us. I've never heard of that analogy used. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna. I second that also. The same description of the way Dr. Shane described how you went about the explanations of wonderful and correlation. Any other comments? Any other questions? Okay, well, we're on the top of the hour, so thank you very much, Jiva Prabhu, for giving such a wonderful and inspiring class at the beginning of the weekday. Dear Woodies. So we've been told about how you connect your work. For those of you who are working, a few of us are retired, but those of you working, how you connect to Krishna consciousness. Okay, Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhishcha kripa sundhive evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Om Tat Sat.